All right, welcome to the 5:30 p.m. August 13th, 2024 CRA meeting. We do have a quorum, so I'll call this meeting to order. I promise. As soon as I get this untangled, there we go. We're now in order. Would you please join me in a moment of silence? And the pledge to the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Clerk, would you please read the rules to speak?
Yes. Individuals wishing to speak on agenda items must complete a sign-up card prior to the item being introduced. Sign-up cards are available on the table. Individuals wishing to speak on non-agenda items may do so under petitions and requests. No sign-up card is required. Citizens will be given 3 minutes to speak on all agenda items. All sign-up cards and exhibits being submitted to the CRA shall be placed in the box on the table.
Thank you very much. Can I get a motion to approve the minutes for the July 9th, 2024 CRA meeting?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Opposed? The minutes are passed. City Manager.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, Vice Chair, and CRA board members. We're on agenda item 8A, which is new business, Florida Department of Transportation project in the CRA. In January 2024, the City of Titusville and the CRA was updated on the status of an FDOT project, the repaving of the southbound lanes on US 1, North Washington Avenue, South Hopkins Avenue, and Edison Avenue from the FEC Railroad Bridge to the Gray Street in Titusville. At the June 2024 Community Redevelopment Agency meeting, there was discussion regarding the scope of the project, and it was consensus of the board to request a presentation from FDOT. Tyler Burgett is the FDOT project manager and is here at your request. Tyler, welcome.
All right. Well, welcome.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Should I leave that there? Good evening. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
So I'm here, and we also have Becky Davis here with our engineering team. So she's the project manager with Moffitt and Nickel, our designing firm, and we are just moving on to construction now. So like you said, we coordinated during design, and now we're moving into construction, and we plan to begin in November of this year, and then go on for about 6 months, and then construction will conclude. And Becky's here to talk through some of the technical aspects of the project. I know we also received in the last week some questions regarding the northbound, because our project is just the southbound to downtown Titusville. So we can also answer some of the questions regarding the northbound and what FDOT has in its work program for that. So, Becky?
Hello, good evening. My name is Becky Davis with Moffitt and Nickel, and as Tyler mentioned, I'm the consultant project manager for the design of this project.
That happens every time.
We'll get there. I know, I'll push all the buttons to get there eventually.
I don't know why you even go back there when we're getting ready to do a PowerPoint. You got to just wait for somebody to get this thing right.
Oh, it's not on. There we go. Thank you.
There we go.
So just a quick project overview. As we mentioned, this is from the bridge over the railroad down to Gray Street. The context through the area is suburban, commercial, and urban core. Posted speeds in the area range from 30 to 40 miles per hour. This is a 2-lane urban roadway. All of the work is proposed within the existing FDOT right-of-way. So the main purpose of this project is to rehabilitate the asphalt pavement to extend the service life of the existing roadway, is also including some necessary roadside improvements. The main roadway improvements are milling and resurfacing of all the roadway lanes, the turn lanes, the parking lanes, and the shoulders. The existing lane widths that are there today will remain in the future condition as far as the shoulders and the turn lanes and the parking lanes. All those lane widths will remain the same. There will be some raising of the utility valves that are within the pavement today that cause a little bit of a bumpy ride. So those will be raised and brought up to match the roadway surface to improve the rideability of the roadway. Couple other improvements, just past South Street, we are putting in some curbed area over the existing striped median area. You'll see similar, on the northbound side, there's a couple of areas where there's some curbing with some landscaping. So we'll be putting in some curbing instead of the existing striped areas, so you won't be able to drive through there any longer. It'll be an actual barrier type curb. As far as pedestrian improvements go, we are putting in the sidewalk. There's a little piece down Hopkins in the island, and there's kind of a gap in the sidewalk. We'll be filling in that gap to make a complete connection. We'll be upgrading any of the ADA curb cut ramps that don't currently meet ADA criteria as far as the slopes. Those will be upgraded. And we are adding new pedestrian crossings at Broad Street, Pine Street, Palmetto Street, and south of St. John Street. There was a pedestrian safety study done, and these are the recommended locations for these crossings. They are not signalized, they are just signed, as you can see kind of in the graphic there. There's a crosswalk with a stop sign and some pedestrian warning signs. As far as the signals are designed to meet the smart signal criteria that the district has that's compatible with their fancy automated traffic signal performance measures. I'm not a signal girl, so I don't know what all that means, but they collect a lot of data so they can do real-time tracking of the traffic. That's essentially what that is. We'll be adding reflectorized black backplates on all the signal heads, make them more visible, updating the pedestrian signal assembly heads. You're adding a bicycle detection area at the signal. This is the one improvement on the northbound side. It's actually a detection for the bicycles. So if a bike is in the bike lane there, it will actually get detected now and pick it up, and the signal will actually turn green just for the bicyclist. And that's at State Road, the northbound section in Main Street. We're providing accessible pedestrian signals. It's called APS at Garden Street. That is the audible tactile pedestrian detectors. It beeps and you can kind of feel, there's like an arrow on the thing when you touch it. It kind of shows you which direction you're supposed to be going, and it does a beeping sound. And we're also implementing leading pedestrian intervals at all the signals that basically turns the pedestrian signal, turns it to walk before the cars get the green light. So you get a few seconds for the pedestrians to get moving, get established in their crosswalk before the cars actually get the green light to turn. Lighting, we are retrofitting the intersection lighting at the signalized intersections, bringing that up to current standard criteria. Also adding supplemental pedestrian lighting at those new proposed unsignalized crosswalks that are going to be going in. Pavement markings, all the pavement markings will be restriped. There will be additional wrong way driving arrow pavement markings placed per current standards. As far as the temporary traffic control, there will be temporary lane closures. Generally, these will be during nighttime. There are a few locations outside of the limits of the signal that there can be some daytime work done in the road, but generally the milling and all those operations will be at night. As far as the pedestrian work and the sidewalks, there will be some sidewalk closures to do that work, and there'll be appropriately signed pedestrian detours for each quadrant when they do that work there to keep people moving. So as far as the project schedule, the design was completed in May of this year. We have it's currently in Tallahassee for bid. So the bid opening, which is the same as the letting, will be on September, very early in September. I'm not sure the exact date, but very early in September. The anticipated construction NTP is in November. The contractor does have on this project up to a 60-day lead time for procurement of materials. So they could start right on day one, or they could use up to that 60 days. So that's why we have an anticipated begin construction in sometime between November and January. And the construction, as Tyler mentioned, is going to last approximately 6 months once they get started. And that is all I have specifically on the presentation. I can take questions, or I can let Tyler kind of talk about northbound or.
Member Cole.
two questions. One is, are you going to embed sensors in the pavements at the traffic lights, so, for traffic control purposes? In other words, if a lane doesn't have any cars in it, the lights could stay red or
So
green or-
we're doing that via video detection.
Okay.
So there'll be video detectors that are placed on the signals that do it instead of having the loops cut into the pavement. I believe everything on this project is the loops, I'm sorry, the video detection. And that's one of the things with the smart signal criteria that I was mentioning, is having the video capability to detect all the cars in all the lanes.
Okay.
So
Wow, that's pretty good.
improve traffic.
The other question, give me a minute here. Go ahead, I'll come back. That'll come back. Remember, I'm the same age as the old guys that are running for president.
Member Stokoe.
I had so many comments too, specifically for Member Cole.
I'm sure you did.
No, my question has to do with the pedestrian crossings. Are all of those going to be the same that you guys are putting in? And then, is it the same one that we have in downtown already where you push it and then it will light up so cars know to stop? Is that what's going to happen?
So, no.
Okay.
They are just static signs at this point.
Oh gosh, okay, that's what I was
there-
afraid of.
Yeah, there's not any of the flashing or the retro reflective. The safety study that we performed, the pedestrian safety study, didn't recommend any sort of signals or anything like that. But so, yeah, for right now, they're just called out as being striped, and then the static stop signs and pedestrian
Could that
crosswalks.
potentially change as we try to get more walkability in our downtown area? Yeah, I think that's kind of where I'm hoping to see some more life in our downtown. And when we have people walking, I feel like it's an added component that makes them feel safer, that makes it seem like, okay, this downtown is for walking, it's not for driving, when you kind of invest more into that. And I see a lot of our citizens do use the one that's in the northbound side.
Is it just one that lights up when you push the button?
Yeah, and you see, I mean, I use it all the time. I'll push it and then, like, I see the cars come and then they start slowing down because they're going, 45. And they're like, oh, I need to stop because it's flashing and they know. And I see it also when I'm over in Volusia County, like all down Ponce Inlet, like for people crossing to go to the beach. I mean, it's like one after another. And it's very helpful, especially at night when people are crossing. You wouldn't see it, but you see the flashing light. So that would be my request. If we're able to make any changes, I would like to see that.
Yeah, so the best time to coordinate with FDOT, of course, is while we're doing these projects. So those are excellent comments. And as we come through the northbound side, right now we're working on the development of the scope for the northbound resurfacing side. And our work program is currently open, the development cycle of developing the next 5 years of what projects we're able to do. Right now, we're working through where to insert our resurfacing projects, this being one of them. So as soon as that's finalized, when this one has been booked as far as when it's anticipated to go to construction, then we would be reaching out to the local agencies, being Titusville. And that's when our team will be asking to coordinate on the the first steps of the project on what you guys would like to see northbound. As far as southbound, there's nothing we can add to the project at this point as far as the current project, but working with our traffic operations department, I know your public works department is in close communication with our staff, and we can always be exploring, we can always be taking comments on what needs to be done or requests or concerns. I know one of the questions we received was for speed. We can have our traffic operations department, they hear from local agencies all the time when they're requesting a new speed analysis. So that's something that our staff can do on US 1, and future projects could then adjust accordingly, lower the speed if it's meeting criteria, and we can coordinate with the city on the data that we gather, and if we're trying to determine what to do with it.
That intersection too, Garden and US 1 is one that has one of our highest accidents in this whole city. So I would hope that that's taken into consideration when looking at talking about speed, us trying to slow down a little bit. Like, I get it, it's a major road that people are driving through all the time, but for us that live here and it's our downtown area, trying to keep it safer for people that are passing through our town and our current residents is important. So. Thank you.
Let me just, and I think Member Cole started to talk a little bit about it, but let me ask, it wasn't too long ago, and city managers heard me talk about this often, that the FDOT changed the way vehicles were recognized along Highway 50. Not Highway 50 itself, but the ones from the subdivisions. Is that going to be part of what you're doing, or is that different? And maybe tell me a little bit more while I've got you here. What is the vehicle recognition? And let me just be fully honest about it before you even answer. People hate it. It was nice before. You had a reasonable wait. Now what I see is people wait too long, like coming on Highway 50 from Hickory Hill, Imperial Estates, wherever else there's a light, and they'll turn right. I just did it 2 weeks ago. Turn right and do a U-turn, and you'll beat the light. The light can be 3 or 4 minutes. And it used to be a minute. I don't know. I didn't time it, but it wasn't anything out of the ordinary. Now you sit there so long, and it's like, oh, it's safer, it's safer. Not when people are getting in the right lane to turn right and do a U-turn because it takes so long. That being said, I'd be interested to know, first of all, what happened? What was the big change? And secondly, is that going to be any part of what's coming downtown? And if you don't know, then we need to find out.
Yeah, I have to
Or ride with me.
apologize. I don't
Ride
have-
with me, because unless I'm turning right, I go to church left. If I'm 2 or 3 minutes close to being late, I'm 8 or 9 minutes late. So anyway, that's kind of kidding around, but I should be earlier.
I have to apologize. I don't know the context of that. Can you speak?
It was a couple of years ago, and city manager kind of explained it to me that, and I don't disagree, Highway 50 should have priority over Key Largo coming in from where I come in, or Hickory Hill where my sister lives, and I was there recently, and it's like, wow, they've got it as bad as we do. You just sit there, and you sit there, and you sit there. And I don't know exactly what changed, and quite honestly, I'm not even sure why it changed, except maybe the lights were too friendly to the oncoming traffic out of the subdivisions or the neighborhoods. But I'm just sitting here thinking, boy, I hope that's not what happens downtown, because I don't even know what the vehicle recognition tool is on those, but it sure has changed. And again, when you start seeing people, when it takes me longer to get through that light than it does to come to 5 or 6 minutes from my house to that light,
Right.
it's like, something's not right. And again, I guess where I'm putting it in context is, are we going to smooth things out and not have people sit there for 7 minutes on an oncoming street to Garden Street, et cetera? So, and maybe you gave an explanation. What is the vehicle recognition? You said something about video or?
Yeah, it's a video detection system. I can't speak to all of the detailed signalization components, but again, it is video recognition for, as far as I know, all of the lanes. It can actually detect. Now, the older systems, they would only detect the through lanes, not necessarily all the turn lanes. But so the new software and the new hardware that's going to be in should be able to detect all the lanes of traffic and see, where the main traffic is coming from. The signal timing actually goes through the local governments. They actually maintain, it's Brevard County or the city, I believe the city.
Oh,
your
okay, there we
city
go.
here.
That's the city, they're gonna say FDOT.
Actually maintains the actual
He's
signal
smiling.
I
timing.
think he's saying yes.
Kevin, who sets the light time?
Those on 50 are under the ITS control of the county. We maintain the traffic controller. They maintain the timing. I don't believe this project has an ITS connection in it. I think they're getting a cell phone connection for emergency events, but I don't believe it's getting tied to ITS fiber. I don't know, I don't recall for sure, but 50 is currently tied to the county's ITS system, which is a smart traffic signals controlled by the county, countywide. They control all the ITS systems in Brevard County. So we can control timing on the city signals. We can make minor adjustments to some of the state-maintained signals that we maintain on their behalf. But those on 50, we don't touch the ITS controller in them. So it's two parties. We take care of the cabinet. They handle the timing now. And that timing is built by a computer down in Rockledge that is watching traffic work. I don't believe this project has an ITS component. I don't recall. Joey, I know, has worked with your staff, but
Yeah,
I believe it's
we
getting
have-
a cell phone control for launch events, which works really well in 50, but I don't think they're getting the full ITS package yet.
It works well in 50 unless you're coming out on Key Largo. And you're 5 minutes late for church and you were 10 minutes early.
Or Rotary.
All right, two things. First of all, it sounds like the information I got that FDOT has something to do with it, perhaps not. What does ITS mean?
The transportation system.
The intelligence part might be lagging on that. All right, thank you.
Some
Thank you.
intersections are hard to learn. 4, 5, and 50 is a very difficult one for the system to learn. 407 with NASA traffic has had difficulties at times. Those aren't traditional traffic patterns, so they vary a lot and it does struggle sometimes.
So the way the system works is it learns, it educates itself on the traffic patterns that it sees. So if you have the morning rush hour at a certain time, it learns that traffic to keep the flow on the major road going.
Makes sense, but I would have to say it needs some tutoring. And I mean, I'm being very honest. Just 2 weeks ago, I'm sitting there, you know, I'm like, oh, I'm just going to turn right and do a U-turn. And it still was read the way it was. Member Nelson.
So one of the things I'm curious about, and I'm hoping that you'll think about this as you're doing northbound US 1, that intersection of Julia Street and US 1 has the little blinky light. And a couple of us have almost gotten flattened there. So we're hoping for something that will calm the traffic, slow it down. A friend of mine was almost run over, seriously yanked out of the way. And so it's scary going through there. And with the apartments coming in at Sandpoint and other development, it's just going to get worse. So I would prefer to do something before we have accidents there because it's getting close.
Yeah.
Are you saying that's on the southbound and the northbound side?
It's on the northbound.
Northbound.
It's on the northbound at Julia Street. It used to be a signalized device, regular traffic signal, and it was replaced 12 years ago?
Yeah. It's a scary place to cross. Yeah. Actually, the one car stopped and the other car thought that the blinking lights didn't mean anything. So he was getting ready to run into the first car and push that first car into Christie Mountain. And she jumped out of the way. And of course, the two drivers got out screaming and cussing at each other. But it was just way too close. And it's happened a couple times. So that concerns me.
Member Ball.
I have a number of questions. So staff was good enough. I put together, and I think all of you, you probably should have sent it before now, but it got distributed here. But we did want to give it to the FDOT people that were going to present because it puts a context on why the CRA is focused on this issue of pedestrian and bicyclist safety in a community redevelopment area. As you saw, if you reviewed that, it's one of our key goals, and it's the one thing, one among several that is recurring. If you go back to the US 1 corridor study 5 years ago, same thing, same issue. And that was the study that, if I read it correctly, said that the average speeds on those two segments, southbound and northbound, was about 5 miles per hour over the speed limit. So if it's 5 miles over the speed limit on the average, then somebody going the speed limit's being offset by somebody going 40 miles an hour. And there's just constant, continuous concern about the crossings at Julia Street and northbound, but that doesn't mean that there aren't also concerns about getting across the street on the southbound section. So that's the context, and you really got it good. I tried to put for FDOT's edification the things that are in our CRA plan that cause us to want to ask these kind of questions and understand what we can do to engage with you, because it's clear, and it was stated in our plan, that we can't do this without the engagement of FDOT, the cooperation of FDOT. We have no jurisdiction over what happens, but we do have input into the planning. And to say that we don't have the jurisdiction to lower speeds or decide when a traffic signal needs to go in is not going to be very satisfactory to the person that gets hit and or to the survivors. So I think the questions, and I realize we're at the end of design, but since the project had the stated goal of pedestrian safety enhancements that will include improved crosswalks, my first question really was, how did you improve them? What's new in the design of the crosswalks that provided a safety enhancement?
Yeah, I honestly don't know why it said improved in the project description. The crosswalks are standard, designed for FDOT specs. They're the visible ones with the you know, the ladder bars, as well as the crossbars, the high visibility. Do you remember what they're called? What are those ones called? As opposed to just the two stripes, there's, you know, the ladders in between. So I'm not actually sure why it said improved. I looked up the project description on CFL roads. When I saw this question, I was like, I don't know who put that there, but, you know, the roadway in general is being improved, so the quality of the crosswalk is gonna be improved, the new striping and.
Well, you understand why
essentially
we're
it's the
asking,
same.
since it was in the project description.
I do.
Wanted to, before it's constructed, because I think we'll have the question even more so afterwards if it wasn't being answered now. So the design crosswalk markings really aren't any different from the standard FDOT crossings.
No, they're not.
And the existing brick pattern that are in the downtown, at least in this segment, are all going to be removed or paved over and replaced with the standard FDOT crossing marking. Is that right?
Correct,
That's
yes.
correct. Yeah, we had coordinated with the city, and we had offered to do a locally funded agreement. So there was a time where we were coordinating with Public Works and Sue Williams on whether or not it was the wish of the city of Titusville to replace those. But it was decided no, to not replace them at this time. So they'll just be standard.
Okay, we understand. I understand that City of Titusville had opportunities during, maybe one or two during the design process to engage with you. So this is almost at this point a lessons learned, so we can apply, you know, a better engagement for the body that's going to take the brunt of the concerns from citizens that this hasn't been fixed, it hadn't been addressed. I would say that well, let me ask you, you said there was a study that said it did not meet criteria for signalization?
Right, for like
What's the criteria based on?
it has to do with vehicular traffic and pedestrian traffic. I mean, we can get a copy of the report.
Yeah.
But in general, yeah, those are the kind of the factors, the number of pedestrians crossing, the sight distance of where, you know, can they see gaps in traffic to actually make that crossing, you know, numbers and kind of sight distance, I think, are the main factors for that.
Right, so it tries to determine whether or not there should be a mid-block in the first place, and then whether or not they recommend adding different, you know, rapid flashing beacon to alert vehicles as well. So there's just the different criteria of like how much pedestrian traffic do we have? Sorry, they're not.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I should have said that.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Mostly it's important for the people can hear you,
The video guy gets that in the back.
Oh, okay, no problem.
because people on TV couldn't hear you.
Just let me know if you need me to speak up. But yeah, so I was just saying that the studies, it establishes whether or not you need a mid-block crossing in the first place, as far as if it meets criteria, and then whether or not it recommends actual signals, pedestrian signals there at the location, or what kind it recommends. So that's what we had.
So I've often heard in the past, and I think it may still be the case, but you can clarify it, and I know it puts you on the spot, but is part of the FDOT criteria based on the number of deaths or serious injuries or crashes that have occurred at an intersection? So if somebody has to die before you meet certain criteria?
Absolutely not.
Okay.
So we do analysis as we're coming up on any project, as you know, as we did with this resurfacing, as we'll be doing with northbound. Resurfacing project is largely at the core of it, of course, a maintenance project. We're just resurfacing. But then with these resurfacing projects like what we just did for southbound, it's also looking at what can we do, although it's mostly going to be maintenance, what can we do to also improve the roadway while we're touching it? So we did, as we've talked about, some safety improvements, mid-block crossings, but the reality is we'll be doing the same with northbound as far as what can we do to address safety concerns at the intersections. We'll be communicating with the city of Titusville to get feedback on top concerns for the project limits. Or safety is part of our analysis. So we do want to be proactive with those measures.
With FDOT's own Vision Zero goal, is there a discrete, separate safety office review of the design? Or is that just embedded in your design process?
Actually, so this project went through what we call the collaboration meeting process, where that's exactly where we looped in, even in addition to our scoping process, it's where we looped in multiple departments, even again, including our safety office, to look at the project to see what could be improved.
Okay, let me jump to one other thing regarding the northbound. So I think you've answered all the questions I had regarding the design that's finished and soon to be constructed. And the bottom line is it's really no specific safety improvements were incorporated into the crossings for pedestrian consideration. So our concern will continue to be, now we only get this opportunity about every 10, 15 years, right, on a resurfacing, but I guess a safety issue could be addressed at any time. Like intersections, some intersections have somewhat raised pavement in order to calm the traffic down. I've heard that relative to the comment about the yellow flashing lights, it's a widely held opinion that those aren't particularly effective, that some motorists will observe them, some motorists won't. They're kind of a new thing, and that maybe some improved technology system is being employed on the beaches, beach communities like Cape Canaveral, Melbourne Cove. I don't know which ones are getting it, that actually to assure safe pedestrian crossings to the beach, there's a red light. I mean, it's like a red, you stop, or there's some sequencing of the lighting that turns red, you know, stop before, and let the pedestrians come across. Is that right? Have you got any design experience with that system?
Not me directly, but you're right, we have installed ones that stop traffic.
So if we want to do that, enhance or improve the effectiveness of that on the northbound, we can just say that now, and you're not in design yet, but you recognize we're expressing this is the goal of the CRA, to improve these things, and we only get the opportunity when FDOT's working on a project.
Right.
Or we ask for a safety analysis. It says, this can't wait 10 years until you're going to do a project. It needs to be done right now.
Right. So our scoping team, our scoping team in partnership with then our work program schedule, like I mentioned earlier, as they look when they anticipate this resurfacing to take place, then they told me that they'll be emailing all the local agencies, so the city of Titusville included, and that's where they want to start setting up collaboration on the final development of the scope and what the project's going to look like. In addition to that, reaching out to Mike Sanders with our, I'm sorry, am I speaking loud enough? Reach out to Mike Sanders with our traffic operations department. At any point, we can be coordinating on that, and I can give any contacts that, we can coordinate with. I know we have our safety office, which does separate safety projects, our traffic operations. We want to collaborate and be hearing feedback even in between maintenance projects, because there are times where we even hit corridors just from a safety level and do a safety project. So collaboration like this on both the northbound when FDOT reaches out regarding the scoping, or then even the southbound in the interim, that is the kind of feedback that we want from communities. you know, you mentioned like raised crosswalks. We've installed those in some communities and they didn't like those. You know, so we do want to work with the local communities on what is wanted. I know, I was a project manager for one where we actually installed it and then we removed it. But you know, raised crosswalks to some communities, I live in Sanford and I actually love them. We have those throughout downtown Sanford and it's perfect to me. I mean, you just see the traffic slow down. I have one in my neighborhood as well. But then, like I said, some communities don't want them. So that is the kind of feedback that we need from communities, because we'll either install them sometimes, you know, pending that it meets certain criteria that we have to meet on state roads, but we can sometimes install them or then have to remove them, or we want to work with the communities.
Yeah, I wasn't trying to be prescriptive with that. It's just one thing I know has been done that may or may not have proved out to be,
Right.
you know, best practice kind of thing. But I would think that, you know, in our plan and as we go forward, we're just going to express our goals and objectives and say, tell us how we can meet that. You know, tell us how we can work together as we're increasing the volume greatly of pedestrian traffic. It's which means CRA is being successful in redeveloping the downtown, bringing people downtown. A lot of that's starting to happen at night. A lot more of it's going to begin happening east to west, not just north and south, where you just stay on one side of the road. You've got to be able to have safe passage for pedestrians. So, anyway, that
Can I
was
just
the.
clarify one thing real quick?
Sure.
We are adding safety to the crossings themselves. Now, when I was saying the crosswalk, specifically the crosswalk striping is not changing, but, you know, we are adding the leading pedestrian intervals that does give the people time to cross. There'd be right turn on red signs, restricted right turn on red signs that will come on when those crossings come on. We are improving the area. People can stand at some of the corners. So it's not that this, you said we're not doing any safety at the crosswalks. Well, it's not, the crosswalks themselves, the striping is per standard, but we are still implementing some safety features at the crossings.
thank
Just
you.
wanted to clarify that.
You good?
I'm good. Thank
Member
you.
Cole?
I do remember what my question was. You said that the contract was going to be awarded in November, and it was a 6-month construction time. My question is the construction time starting in November, or is the construction time starting, is there a definite time for construction so that the construction will be completed before the summer? Or is there mobilization in there, or whatever?
Right, so this contract does have a 60-day lead time that the contractor can use. So once they get awarded the NTP in November, they have up to 60 days for procurement and all that before they could start on day one, or they could take those full 60 days. But once they start, then the 6 months
60 days start, okay.
Right, once they start, it keeps rolling.
All right, thank you.
Member Stokel?
Yep. And Member Ball kind of touched on this. And one, first off, thank you for the update and informing us of what is happening. I guess to the point of us trying to collaborate more, is there anything that we can do on our end to try to help facilitate that process? Because I think it's a little bit frustrating, like hearing it now that it's kind of too late, where we would have maybe have liked to have been a part of that discussion or at least talk through some of those things. So even if you guys went ahead with what you wanted to do, we at least felt like we could voice those concerns. So like moving forward, I'm even thinking of future FDOT programs that are coming as we seek to widen 405 hopefully soon, because that one is just, it's really bad when people are going 60 miles per hour and then all of a sudden have to dead stop because somebody's turning left and it's only 2 lanes. But like, once that gets underway, hopefully soon, look, we can be a part of that discussion to say, oh, wait, this is what you're thinking, because it looks good from an outside perspective, but for those of us that actually live here, there might be things that you're not aware of that we could help you with. Right. So I don't know what that process would look like, or if there is something that we can do to say, hey, we know we've looked at the FDOT list and we know these things are coming. Can we schedule a meeting to help like facilitate that? Do you have any recommendations, I guess, for that?
Right. So the best time to coordinate would be while we're having the opportunity to hit a project limits. So when we're coming through with a widening, or of course, these resurfacing projects, or any time that you're alerted that we're hitting a section of Titusville, that'd be the best time, because, as an agency, you got the budgets and the budget shortfalls and the schedule limitations, so the best time for, like, while we're touching it
Okay.
is when we can really make changes that the community wants, that's within our criteria, or whatever we're able to do at the time with budget. Or, there was one question that was asked about, in areas, if there's a disagreement on the city of Titusville asking for something, but FDOT is not able to provide that, either by funding or whatever the reason be at the time. So an option for that would then be a locally funded agreement where the city
Right.
of Titusville is able to say, well, then this is something we want to pay for. And then that's something that, as long as it doesn't go against requirements on state roads, then that's something that we're eager to push through. A lot of our projects have locally funded improvements.
That would be a great partnership. So, okay, so maybe we can stay on top of the projects that are coming forth and then have somebody reach out to you to schedule maybe a time for you to come before our board, if it's CRA for that board or if it's for the city with city council. And you guys would be open to that. I mean, I want to be aware and respectful of your time. But I feel like it would be beneficial for you guys as well. So you're not spending time doing, the raised crosswalk and then saying, oh, wait, they didn't want it. Now we have to take it all back. Like,
Right.
I don't want you guys to be in that situation either.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Member
I
Aker.
appreciate it. I appreciate you guys reaching out and having us come, because our teams can always do that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well, I just wanted, everybody's kind of touched on the topics. I had someone in who worked for DOT, because I asked about the flashing yellow. So we're conditioned our whole lives. It's a yellow, that doesn't mean stop. That means caution, but you're going to roll on through. Red means what? Stop. And I'm pretty certain that the new pedestrian control, that you have the capability of making those red as opposed to yellow, is what I was told. And certainly if there's a way for us to even go ahead and change that instead of waiting a year for northbound to be done, can we look at changing that northbound to a red? And that would be, you see red, you're going to stop every time. I do like the idea of the communication ahead of time and perhaps something to slow people down with the raised crosswalks. When it comes time to do northbound, and this probably isn't for this time, the original project, and I walked the road with DOT, the original project when we redid US 1 was supposed to have a turn in the roadway as you approach downtown. So you weren't looking at a racetrack going down the road. You had a turn of about 10 or 15 feet, which that I think should be revisited so that we don't have this racetrack that we're looking at. So just getting feedback when the time comes is the most important thing. And if there's a way for us to self-fund the project for some of this stuff, that would be great, so we don't have to wait so long.
Agree. Member Ball.
So I just want to be sure that we ask how we do something. Since it has been 5 years since a speed analysis was done, things have changed a lot in 5 years. And even at that time, we recognized, or it was identified, that traffic coming through the downtown is exceeding the speed limit. I think that study ended up, the key outcome, as I recall, was the traffic circle proposed up at State Road 406 and northbound, southbound US 1. So if we wanted to, you said that's possible, we could do the study. What do we need to do in order to just go through staff and ask for updated speed analysis? And
So, yes, our traffic operations department, they do accept requests from local agencies, cities and counties to conduct the speed analyses. So Mike Sanders, specifically with our department, can have his team assess that. So I was speaking with him when I received your questions, and he was encouraging that, he's exactly the one to reach out to. So I can give Sue Williams the contact just to make sure everybody has it, and I can provide it.
okay, very good. And I think staff sort of got the idea that as we move towards northbound, that we would really like to stay out in front of, knowledge-wise, is, hey, where are we in what milestone are we about to pass, and not going to be able to go back and change anything.
All right, thank you for the presentation. I certainly think that you got a lot from us. City Manager, is there anything else we need to do with this? Okay, I appreciate you guys. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
City Manager,
Your next item is petitions and requests for this meeting.
CRA, petitions and requests. Go ahead.
Hi, Connie Milton, Wendover Farms. I did a little bit of research here, looking at ad valorem taxes, or something being passed out to y'all. Of course, ad valorem taxes goes towards redevelopment within Titusville, City of Titusville line, right? Boy, you hear something like $750,000 ad valorem taxes. Wow, 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 that sounds wonderful, doesn't it? Well, let's dig into this a little bit more. I took samples, 5 different apartment complexes here in the city of Titusville, and I took 2 subdivisions. Okay, 20 acres, approximately 20 acres. There's like 16 acres at Wendover Woods, and Timber Trace is 17 acres. Wendover Oaks is 19. Solomere Grand is 19 acres. So I looked at what are they paying in ad valorem taxes, and what does the city of Titusville get out of it? Well, I also took 2 different new subdivisions.
Hold on, Connie. The question, all right,
Question.
go ahead.
Petitions requests, shouldn't it relate to the CRA?
Yes,
Say again?
I think she was talking about redevelopment. Taxes that go to redevelopment,
Isn't that what this meeting's about?
yeah, I think she mentioned redevelopment. So.
Okay.
Redevelopment.
Okay.
Okay. So you used ad valorem taxes in redevelopment activities, right?
Go ahead.
Okay. So I took 2 different subdivisions, new ones built in 2020 and 2019 here in the city of Titusville. I said, okay, how many houses could you get on 20 acres? You can get 80 houses. R1B, your R1B zoning allows 80 houses. So I said, okay, well, how much ad valorem taxes can you get out of those? Oh, well, it's about the same as an apartment complex. Wow. But guess what? The city of Titusville, you don't get $750,000 or $650,000. You get $156,000 for Summerhill. You get $62,000 for Timber Trace. You get $239,000 for the Solomere Grand. It's not $750,000. But then you get something called non-ad valorem, which is for storm and wastewater. So that's a non-ad valorem ad. And it all seems to be about the same for apartment complexes, about $25,000. You get about $11,000-$12,000 out of an apartment complex. But the ad valorem taxes that you get out of a R1B subdivision, which could be 80 homes on 20 acres, is about the same amount of ad valorem taxes City of Titusville would get on an apartment complex. Just wanted to point that out, which was kind of interesting. Now, there's other things that are, of course, in the ad valorem, but the county gets some money, and the library gets money. Oh, and the schools get money. Those are all, you can look up at your own ad valorem taxes on your own property at the Property Appraisers page. Property Appraisers page is a wonderful website. They do a great job for the citizens to be able to look it all up. But I did that little bit of research, and I just thought maybe y'all would be interested.
Your little tidbit.
Little tidbit.
Good job. Thank you. All right, CRA. What am I saying? Petitions, requests? All right, City Manager.
On to 10A, which is the Executive Director's report.
Oh, you got to be quicker, young man. All right, go ahead. CRA.
My name is Jesse Wright, and live at 3550 South Washington Avenue. The reason that I'm here right now is because of multiple emails that I have sent to the city staff regards to the project. Sorry.
Time's up.
And I have not got any answers on the emails that I have sent out. All we're doing is we have got the master plan and also the site plan approved a couple of years ago. We're making a very small revision of dropping the size of the building for the multi-units from 7 to 6 and 6 to 4. That's all we're doing. We've been waiting for 2 months for any kind of a response from the city. I've sent the second email today requesting any sort of a response. It's been 2 years. We've been waiting for separation of the parcels. That's how I can get financing for every single parcel. One parcel was separated. The other 4 have left. We just got the approval on the loan, on the bridge loan, to go forward on the infrastructure. It's going to take about 6 months. In this 6-month period, we're getting a final, and the construction loans that are going to be paying the bridge loan. The construction loan, when it is approved, it has to be on each separate parcel. And we need to have some kind of a response all the way from the city attorney, city manager, to the planning, and so on. It's been 2 months. My understanding is that the amount of time that the city should be taking is about 30 days. It's been 2 months now. That's the only reason that I'm here right now.
All right, and obviously, this is a CRA meeting, so we're a little bit out of the area here.
I can come back on that at 6:30.
Well, we certainly got you now. Brad, is there anything you want to say, or anybody have an answer for, I guess you'd like a reply of some sort, and then we're going to move on?
We have received several emails from Mr. Wright and his team. We've tried to respond to them. Just in the past 3 days, I've received 14 emails from Mr. Wright and his team. And I've responded to some. I can't respond to all of them. And I know other staff members have also received the same. He currently has a site plan that was approved. He's going forward with a pre-construction meeting for it, but he also has, if you recall, the change to the code that recently happened to allow an ALF on his property in that zoning. So we have a master plan application also in review, and we also have a minor division application in review. So we have quite a bit in review right now, and we are trying to respond as expeditiously as we can, in addition to all the other site plans that we have in review.
All right, thank you. And I think the thing to do would be to talk to Brad for that one. That's where we're at.
I'll be
Thank you.
sending you the number 15 email. Thank you.
Thank you. 15th email. All right, CRA. Go.
Last item is the executive director's report, and there's just informational items for your consideration, subject to your questions.
Any questions? All right, with that, we'll go at 25 till to start the next meeting. This meeting is adjourned.